From James defending David Corenswet on Twitter, to him firing back at naysayers that doubt his passion for Superman, here's how James Gunn has reacted to fans' backlash for the Superman casting. I've got to say, it's impossible not to compare David Corenswet with Henry Cavill. I mean, just look at the guy, he's like a younger Henry, and a lot of the fan reception to the announcement has pointed to this very fact. Fans have been posting all over social media. How did James, after not hiring Cavill, get a Henry Light to take the role on? And for a lot of fans, it's causing them to think that the rumor swirling a couple of months ago about how James doesn't like Henry and isn't hiring him in the DCEU for that reason might have some weight to it. But Gunn isn't having any of it. He took to Twitter to not only defend David, but also explain why he's such a great fit for the part. The filmmaker mentioned that David and Rachel, who'll be playing Lois Lane by the way, are both not only incredible actors, but also wonderful people. It's clear that James has a ton of confidence in them, and is excited to see them perform in the role. But not all the fans are convinced yet. Like, you've got the Cavill fans that wouldn't have been happy, no matter who was cast. But a group of people also feel like David doesn't add anything new to the role. He's got a super generic Superman vibe to him, which kind of makes it feel like this is going to be a retelling of the same old tired story. And let's just say, not all the backlash has been respectful. Some of it has been outright respectful to James, and well, he's tired of fans coming after him. He took to Twitter to address some of these toxic fans, saying that he's aware that the current period the DCU is going through isn't ideal. It's a bit volatile to say the least, and fans don't really know the full picture yet. James also mentioned that when he took this gig, he knew that he'd be in for some tough times because he'd have to make some decisions that weren't easy. But that's kind of the nature of the work he's doing. He also mentioned that there's a certain vocal minority of people online that are way too unkind, and he wants them to know that their goal is simply to tell the best story that they can. The DC characters have been around for 85 characters, and Gunn and Safran are trying their hardest to give them the adaptation that they deserve. While not everyone might agree with their choices, it's important to realize that they're being made from a place of passion and respect for not only the source material, but also the fans. So, to have the same fans he's working for calling him names and outright harassing him felt terrible. And he was super clear that this sort of behavior would never affect his actions, or influence him to make changes that the vocal minority wants. Gunn's goal has been to tell a great story from the start, and well, no amount of online trolls are going to get in his way. Now, it's got to be said, a lot of the backlash that Gunn's receiving can be traced back to one action, and this was the fact that he basically fired Henry when he took over as the head of DC Films. I know the filmmaker said he didn't technically fire Cavill. It was simply that he never hired the star in the first place. But in the eyes of the fans, many of whom were so excited to finally have the star return to the big screen as the iconic Superman, there's no justification that Gunn could give that would make them forgive him. And that's not all. Another big reason why the new DCU messed up from the get-go was that James decided to mostly start things off from a blank slate. To be fair, I totally understand why James did this. The current DC timeline is a weird and convoluted mess of canyon, and you need to be some kind of DC lore expert to even be able to put together what's a part of the main storyline and what isn't. But here's the thing. When Dwayne Johnson got involved with the DCEU, it looked like the cinematic universe finally had someone with a plan. Johnson also got the fans on his side by bringing in Cavill, even though he went over the heads of some DC execs when he did this. The dude directly pitched his idea to WB CEO David Zaslav, and well, the executives were not happy about this. But that didn't matter. Fans loved what Johnson had planned for the DC universe. He had this whole idea that the upcoming DC films would set up an eventual conflict between Superman and Black Adam. And get this, eventually you'd see the two go head-to-head against one another in some sorta endgame-like event. This sounded more interesting than anything DC had been doing over the past few years. And it also meant more Cavill, which is obviously a huge plus for a big part of the fan base. The issue is that Johnson announced these things without even knowing what his own future in the DCEU would be like. And it didn't help that Black Adam was a massive flop in the box office, causing WB to panic and hit the "Call James Gunn" button. I'm sure the first thing James did after getting hired was trying to make sense of the whole DCEU before realizing there was no salvaging this dumpster fire, and started from the beginning instead. Like I said, his choice makes sense, especially when you consider the long-term benefits of doing this. But currently, it caused fans to turn against him because they wanted to see Johnson's plan for the DC Universe pan out. To make matters worse, the almost humiliating way Henry got fired, weeks after his cameo in Black Adam, ticked tons of people off. It's probably why all those rumors of James hating Henry spiraled out of control in the first place. Now, I've got to be clear, James doesn't actually hate Henry. In fact, I think he probably likes the guy. The reason why Cavill isn't going to be in Superman Legacy isn't because the DC film's head has some sort of weird grudge against the star. Nope. It's just that James is really dedicated to the vision he's got for the movie. In case you didn't know, Superman Legacy is all about a younger Superman. It focuses on the formative years of the iconic superhero, showing his life on Earth on a rural farm in Kansas, and contrasting that with the world of Krypton. It's going to be a unique storyline and will serve as the foundation of the DC universe that James is setting up. Now, when you're planning a new cinematic universe, you need stars that you can depend on for years to come. Sure, Cavill might have been alright for the part of this specific film, but what about 10 years from now? He'd probably be a bit too old to do all the stunts and actions required for such films. And while it might seem crazy to think that far ahead, it's kind of James's job to do exactly that. He hired David because Gunn knows that he's the right age to really make his role his own and continue being the best Superman audiences have seen, even a decade into the future. So while the fans might not agree with James's choices yet, I have a feeling that once they see the movie come out, they'll quickly change their opinions. And there's no denying that James is immensely passionate about this project, probably even more than all those toxic fans that keep hounding him on Twitter. Gunn not only loves Superman, but he's very familiar with the comics. I think that'll help him do a good job at showcasing what the character's supposed to be all about, instead of making him another brooding anti-hero like you saw in the Snyderverse. And in case you need even more proof of Gunn's dedication to this project, he revealed that he had a personal connection to the source material. That's because the film's release date, July 11th, 2025, coincidentally, fell on the exact same day as his late father. James's dad had a huge impact on him growing up and fostered his love for comics and filmmaking. So the film's gonna have a special place in his heart, and you just know he's gonna be putting everything into making it as good as it can be. There's still 2 years left before it comes out, but I have a feeling the director's already making use of every second he's got. So from him firing back at naysayers that doubt his passion for Superman, to James defending David Corenswet on Twitter, that was how Gunn reacted to fans' backlash for the Superman casting.